Hi everybody, welcome back to our Food for Life series, Dig In Focus, where we are addressing some questions from our viewers and our following on some of the things that they can be doing in their gardens to make things more productive this year, or to address some issues that they've maybe had in the past. We had lots of questions from people, and we've addressed some of them in the first session a few months back. Rachel is going to join us again today. Hi Rachel.
Good morning, Natalie.
How are you?
Good, thank you. And yourself?
Great. Yeah, good. Thank you very much. So we're going to revisit some questions from our viewers today that I know that you've had already had a bit of a look over and have some answers to. So first question that we had from our viewers was, when is the best time of year to add manure and compost to your soil?
Well, asking that now, we'll probably come over with a negative answer because I'm going to say it's the back end. So it's better in the autumn because that gives time for the worms to drag everything down into the soil to make best use of it. However, it's not a problem if you got to this time of year and you haven't, you can still put a mulch of compost or manure down. It needs to be really well rotted. You need to make sure that it's broken down nicely, it's black and crumbly. You don't want to be putting any fresh manure on, but you can still put it on now and it's still going to have plenty of time to do its job.
Brilliant. And the second question that we had from some of our followers in our digging group was, how can you get rid of caterpillars and slugs from our vegetables without using pesticides?
Well, we don't use any chemicals here at the farm at all, so everything is done with that in mind, but it's not easy. It is a constant battle. So hand picking off slugs and caterpillars is probably the biggest way you can remove that danger of them building up. So you're going out every day, picking off when it's peak season. I throw them into our chicken pens, who love them. You can sort of, over the time goes by, you're going to find that their numbers deplete because you're taking them away. So lots of ways of finding them and attracting them. Things. So you can do things like put upturned grapefruit down and go and empty it first thing in the morning. They all cluster underneath, all the slugs and things go in there. That's a great way of getting them to one place. Same if you've got things like cabbage leaves that you've harvested. You put them down on the soil, it's easy pickings. And as it softens, they quite like that. But you have to, what you're trying to do is to catch them. You don't want to leave them down a shelter. You put them down, you go and check them every day, every morning, go and remove everything that's there. And you'll start to find a balance in your garden, keeping everything. And I'm always a bit sort of like torn whether to say, keep it really tidy or not. When your garden's really clean and really tidy, you do have less sort of predators and less places for them to hide. So getting them tidy is quite good. But at the same time, it's not necessarily good for all the wildlife because obviously your hedgehogs and things want to find food under a pile of leaves or under a log. So it's a bit of a balance. So round your beds, keep it tidy. If you've got edges to your beds, they're good places for things to hide. So especially pay attention to those. You don't want anything where they can crawl under. There are products on the market that you can buy. You can get nematodes, which are tiny microscopic little worms that will eat caterpillars and slugs. You can buy a very specific one for each pest and you can water those in. Again, that over time builds up. It works after about 2 or 3 days, takes full effect after a couple of weeks, but you have to keep doing it. So the thing you're really aiming for in your garden is to get a balance so that as you work on it year on year, you get birds and things attracted because you're not using chemicals. They will start to keep on top of your slugs and your caterpillars for you. But it does take, I think, between 5 and 7 years to get a good balance going. So during my growing season, I handpick slugs, snails, caterpillars, and it does improve year on year. But then you have a couple of years where you don't do it, you notice a difference.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great kind of bit of advice as well. Keep your beds or the space around your beds clear, but leave some habitat for other things is a really good kind of measure to go by, really, isn't it?
Depends how you feel. A lot of people don't like killing slugs, snails, caterpillars. So the idea of squashing them or doing something like that. So you might want to take them for quite a long. They come from quite a distance. If you've ever gone out early morning and looked at a lawn in the dew, you'll see slugs crossing huge distance. You can see the snail and slug trails, and it's quite a distance that they'll travel. So they've got to be taken quite a good distance away. I do find the chicken pen is quite useful for this.
So the third question that we had in from viewers was, I pruned my fruit trees at the start of last year, but I found that they produced quite very little fruit. Will they come back again this year? And is there anything I can do to improve that? So should I fertilise them in any way?
Okay. Without seeing the tree, it's a bit tricky, but a lot of people, when they're trying to prune, try to prune down to get the tree to be smaller. And in doing so, they might have taken off the fruit spurs. It sounds a bit like they've knocked off last year's fruit spurs in the cutting back. So they've had a year without, in which case that's good news. They'll come back this year. It will have put out a new set of fruit spurs and they'll fruit fine if that was the issue. Yes, putting down some compost or some manure. Again, it's better in the autumn, but you can do it now. You can do a bit of a dressing of good, well-rotted compost underneath the tree now. It'll give it a little bit of a boost. At Cae Rhug, we do pruning courses. So we'll do a winter pruning course and a summer pruning course. It's far too sort of intense to do online like this. But it's something most people are a bit scared of pruning, to be honest. It's not too bad. It's just a basic outline of what you've got to do, but it's hard to cover without pictures. So fingers crossed, it'll probably grow back this year. There should probably be some fruit. If not, then that's when you need to contact us and ask again.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, people need to get in touch and see if there's any courses that they can go on. I think it's if you don't know enough about a subject though, so pruning being one of them, you're either very hesitant to take too much off, or you go completely the other direction and you massacre anything that is going to come through. So I think it's one of those things, as you say, that you need to know what you're doing with it, really, to understand
a bit of guidance. You don't need to be too scared of it, but you do need a bit of guidance, because sometimes the way you cut, you think, oh yeah, I'm doing a good job because I'm cutting this back, and it actually increases growth the opposite way you want. And fruit pruning is really fun. It's one of these ones where you've got to look at it like a puzzle and sort of go, well, I want the shoot to go that way, so I'm going to trim it this way. And it's a nice one once you know the basics.
Excellent. Well, we'll put that on the notes as well. So if whoever asked it wants to come back to you for any guidance and to do that course, that sounds like a good idea.
Thank you.
I'd like to grow some vegetables, but I don't have a lot of time, so I need something that's low effort in approach. What kind of vegetables are easiest to grow in small spaces, and what can give the best results soonest? So it's quite a layered question, that one.
It is. I always suggest people start with salad, things like radish, but also mixed packets of lettuce seed are lovely, because you've got a very, very quick turnaround. You can be starting to get the first few leaves maybe 6-8 weeks in, and you can keep picking them. So you're not having to do a lot of work. You can cover your soil quite well. So if you've got a tub, you can just mix the seeds all over the surface, a little sprinkling of compost over the top of that, and then leave it to it. And then you can come back and you can be picking leaves really quickly. It's not high maintenance. As long as you keep picking the leaves, that's it. And you can keep going for quite a while before you have to resow. And then when you resow, you just do the same thing again. So fresh layer of compost and a few more seeds, and you've got another one. So you can be harvesting them for 6 weeks, and that's a really nice one. Radish, again, really quick to come up, and you can pull them all out, eat them, sow another row. You can carry on sort of spacing them out a couple of weeks apart, so you've got a constant supply. But if the space is tiny or you're doing a pot, I always think salad leaves is the most productive, quick thing you can do. And of course, you can get loads of different types because you've got those lovely mixed packets you can buy.
Absolutely, and they're so expensive to buy, and lots of plastic to buy them from the supermarket. So have a go at growing your own. Sounds like a brilliant idea. Excellent stuff. I'm new to growing vegetables. What should I start with, seeds or plants?
Oh, it's a difficult one, but I still think seeds are better, because if you buy plants, sometimes they've already been treated a bit badly in the garden centre. They might have been struggling for water, and you might get off to a bad start. It really does depend on the type of thing you want to grow. But growing simple things, so like we we're just saying with the salad and the radish, I'd always suggest a seed. You've already lost quite a lot of your time when you could be eating. If you buy salad, for example, in a tray, the plants are lovely and healthy, but they're ready to eat pretty much straight away. And if you want it organic, that's even harder to get organic plants. So tend to go seed, but there's nothing wrong with buying in plantlets as long as they're really healthy.
Excellent. And is there anything people should be looking out for in terms of things that would signal a good healthy plant?
Nothing too big. So if you can gently have a look at the underside, the roots should just be starting to show, but you don't want them to be sort of cramming out. And if you are able to just gently ease one of those plants out and have a look at the root ball, if it's crammed tight and yellowing, I'd leave it alone. You just want to be able to see the roots are starting to get near the outside of the tray. You don't want them to be growing round around in circles and have got really tight in there. That would be bad.
Yeah.
Anything that looks like it's wilted or it's going to have stress. And the thing with that is they might pick up, but they really suffer in the long term. You don't realise how much growth you lose from them just running out of water those once or twice. Anything with yellowing leaves, not so great. That's probably your key things.
I think those are great pointers. So thank you. That's brilliant. And the last question that we had in was, my soil is heavy with clay, so I struggle to grow a great deal. What kind of vegetables will thrive in these conditions, and what should I avoid growing in a clay-based soil?
Oh, okay. The one thing that does always pop into my head when people ask me about clay-based soil is whether it's really clay or whether they've got a subsoil issue, because a lot of people don't always know instantly the difference between a subsoil and a clay soil. So if it's a clay soil, it's quite a nice moisture retentive soil, but I'm guessing that from the question they've got a problem. They're looking at it, it's either big hard clumps, and this often happens in modern housing estates, things where they've put a house in, lots and lots of digging work has gone on, and they've brought the subsoil up to the surface. So what I always advise, because it's the same if you had a sticky clay soil, is stop growing in it and start growing on it. So if you're turning it over and digging, you're upsetting that soil structure even more. So definitely go no dig, put on good layers of compost on top and start growing in that. If it is just an ordinary clay soil, then it's going to be giving you lots of lovely moisture that's going to feed your plants, and moisture plants, they've got lots of water to get to down there. That's brilliant. If it's a subsoil, there's no goodness in it whatsoever, so you're going to have to build up a good soil anyway. So if every year you put compost on top and keep mulching and keep adding, then over the years it will get dragged down by the worms, and you'll improve your soil so that you've got a perfect soil in the long term. So whichever way, no dig's the way to go with that one.
Brilliant. And as always, some excellent tips and advice from Rachel at Cae Rhug, which we're super thankful for every single time we get the chance to speak to you. So thanks very much for that. We've got one more session coming up within this Food for Life growing series, which will be covering those people who have maybe small back gardens or areas of limited growing space. So we're going to be addressing some of those queries and questions in terms of how people can kind of make the most of small spaces in the final episode in this series. So join us again in the next couple of weeks for the final part of this. And once again, thank you so much, Rachel, for your time as always. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Oh, thanks, Natalie. Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.